Welcome back, beautiful, beloved souls. For reasons that you'll see when we talk about what we're going to talk about today, you will see that why I no longer am claiming to be a psychic medium or an author. So my name is Jem. I am an author. That's true. All right. And on this channel, you'll find mainly commentary. I don't fit a particular niche. I look at anything and everything. So I watched a movie, or it's actually a documentary on Tubi. Tubi you can download for free. And it was about the famous magician James Randi. And I must admit, it shook me. So here's the title. What if James Randi was right? A fair look at the world's most famous psychic skeptic. In this video, I want to do something that might surprise some of my audience. Many of you know me as someone interested in psychic phenomena, remote viewing, consciousness, near-death experiences, and mysteries that mainstream science struggles to explain. But if we're going to search for truth, we can't just listen to people who agree with us. We also need to listen to our strongest critics. And one of the strongest critics of psychics one of the strongest critics of psychic claims who ever lived was James Randi. Known as the Amazing Randi, he spent decades investigating psychics, faith healers, mediums, spoon benders, paranormal researchers, and anyone claiming supernatural abilities. Unlike many skeptics, Randi wasn't sitting in an armchair criticizing. He was a professional magician, and that made him dangerous because magicians know something most people don't. The human mind is surprisingly easy to fool. Randi's position was simple. He did not believe psychic powers had ever been scientifically proven, including the CIA and remote viewing. He believed every claimed paranormal ability could ultimately be explained through psychology, coincidence, selective memory, fraud, misinterpretation, or natural processes we don't fully understand. To many believers, that sounds arrogant. But before we dismiss him, let's explore why he believed it. After all, this was a man who spent his life investigating extraordinary claims. Randi often quoted a famous principle. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. In other words, if someone claims they can bend spoons with their mind, communicate with the dead, predict the future, or read thoughts, the burden of proof belongs to the person making the claim. And honestly, that seems fair. If someone told you they owned a pet dragon, you'd want more than their personal testimony. You'd want evidence, photographs, samples, independent verification. The more extraordinary the claim, the stronger the evidence needs to be. That was Randi's starting point. One of the most famous people he exposed was Uri Geller. Geller became internationally famous for apparently bending spoons and demonstrating psychic abilities. Millions believed he possessed genuine powers. Randi disagreed. As a magician, he recognized techniques that could produce similar effects. He argued that what appeared supernatural could be recreated through ordinary methods. Whether one agrees with Randi's conclusion or not, his criticism changed the conversation forever. Suddenly, psychic demonstrations weren't simply accepted. They were examined, questioned, tested. Another target of Randi's investigations was the televangelist faith healer, Peter Popoff. Popoff appeared to possess miraculous knowledge about members of his audience. He would reveal personal details that seemed impossible to know. Many considered it evidence of psychic gifts. Randi investigated. According to Randi's findings, information was being transmitted through electronic means to Popoff during his performance. The apparent miracles suddenly looked far less miraculous. For many people, this was a shocking revelation. But from Randi's perspective, it confirmed something he suspected all along. Not every extraordinary claim is honest. Some are simple tricks. And that raises an uncomfortable question. If fraud exists in the paranormal world, how do we distinguish genuine phenomena from deception? That question remains relative today. One of Randi's most famous challenges was his $1 million paranormal challenge.
This is a reminder.
For decades, he offered a prize to anyone who could demonstrate He offered this prize to anyone who could demonstrate paranormal abilities under controlled conditions. Many people applied. Nobody officially won. Supporters view this as proof that psychic powers do not exist. Believers often argue the testing conditions themselves interfered with psychic functioning. And this is where the debate gets interesting. Imagine psychic ability, if it exists, operates more like creativity. You can't always switch creativity on like a light switch. Perhaps psychic functioning fluctuates. Perhaps it depends on emotional states. Perhaps it is affected by stress. Or perhaps it doesn't simply exist at all. Both possibilities remain open questions. But from Randi's perspective, if a phenomenon is real, it should eventually produce measurable results. Now, let's discuss something more personal. Trauma. Suppose somebody experiences severe trauma early in life. Randi might argue that such a person becomes hypervigilant. Their brain learns to scan environments continuously for danger. Tiny facial expressions, subtle voice changes, patterns in behavior, environmental cues. Gee, I'm mucking up today. Sorry, guys. The person may become extraordinarily sensitive without consciously realizing it. Over time, they may appear psychic. They may predict events, sense intentions, know when something is wrong. But according to this explanation, no paranormal mechanism is required. Their unconscious mind is simply processing vast amounts of information. Think of it as a supercomputer operating below awareness. Most people notice 10 clues. A hyper-vigilant person notices 1,000. The resulting intuition can feel supernatural, yet it may arise entirely from natural processes. And honestly, that explanation is fascinating because it doesn't diminish human capability. If anything, it suggests the brain is far more powerful than we realize. Randi would likely say many psychic experiences emerge from precisely these unconscious pattern recognition abilities. Then there is roulette. Suppose someone, like I did, correctly predicts outcomes repeatedly, maybe even 10 times in a row. At first glance, that seems astonishing. Yet, statisticians would ask a different question. How many total predictions occurred before those 10 successes? How many failures were forgotten? And where I'm concerned, there was none. I put my bet on 10 times. I only bet the minimum on one number 10 times. The 11th time I was uncertain and I placed it between two numbers. But those we didn't bet any other times. We only bet 11 times the minimum bet. We walked in with $20 and walked out with $276. So humans are excellent at remembering hits and overlooking misses. Psychologists call this confirmation bias. We naturally focus on evidence supporting our beliefs while paying less attention to evidence that contradicts them. Randi argued this tendency explains many reports of psychic success, not because people are dishonest, but because human memory itself is imperfect. Now, let's move into one of the most controversial topics of all, NDEs, near-death experiences. People report leaving their bodies, observing medical procedures, meeting deceased relatives, entering realms of light, experiencing overwhelming love. Remember, I said, for me, I felt aware in blackness. However, many returned convinced consciousness survives death. Randi remained unconvinced. He argued that extraordinary brain states can occur during trauma, oxygen deprivation, chemical changes, neurological disturbances, residual sensory processing. All could potentially contribute to these experiences. One skeptical argument suggests hearing may persist longer than other senses during critical medical emergencies. A patient could unconsciously absorb information from conversations around them. Later, the brain might reconstruct these fragments into what feels like an out-of-body experience. Again, notice the pattern. Randi wasn't necessarily claiming every detail has been solved. He was suggesting natural explanations should be exhausted before supernatural ones are accepted. And that's an important distinction. Many people portray skeptics as saying they know all the answers. The strongest skeptics usually say something different. They say, "We don't know the answer yet, but uncertainty is not proof of the paranormal. That is a very different statement. At the heart of Randi's worldview was a materialist understanding of reality. He believed consciousness emerged from the physical processes of the brain, electrical activity, chemical interactions, neural networks. Nothing supernatural required. Under this view, when the brain ceases functioning, consciousness ends. For believers in souls, spirits, or life after death, this feels deeply unsatisfying, perhaps even bleak. Yet many materialists find beauty in it. They see consciousness as one of the greatest nature's greatest achievements, a temporary arrangement of matter capable of experiencing love, wonder, art, and meaning. And all those love and things come from chemicals, according to the view. Now, you don't have to agree with that perspective, but understanding it helps explain why Randi approached paranormal claims the way he did. So, where does that leave us? Personally, I think James Randi raised questions every serious researcher should consider. Could intuition be unconscious pattern recognition? Possibly. Could some psychic experience be coincidence? Certainly. Could memory distort our interpretation of events? Absolutely. Could fraud exist amongst paranormal practitioners? Without question. But does that automatically explain every reported psychic experience, remote viewing session, veridical near-death experience, or consciousness anomaly? That remains debated. And this is where intellectual honesty becomes important. A believer should not ignore skepticism. A skeptic should not ignore evidence. Both sides can become trapped in certainty. The real search for truth lies somewhere between blind belief and blind disbelief. James Randi spent his life asking hard questions. Whether you agree with him or not, those questions deserve consideration, because if our beliefs are true, they should survive scrutiny. And if they cannot survive scrutiny, perhaps they were never true in the first place. The challenge is not choosing belief or skepticism. The challenge is having the courage to follow evidence where it leads. And that journey is far more interesting than simply deciding the answer before the investigation begins. So, I had to take a step back. I spent all night down pigeonholes, rabbit holes. Gee, I can't get, come on, Jim, get it together. I questioned my belief because I experienced trauma as a child, and I got very lucky with gambling, but maybe it is pattern recognition. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you believe. Do you believe psychic powers exist? Do you believe it's just pattern recognition and maybe something natural that we don't yet fully understand? If you are going to drop a comment, I ask you do so respectfully, please. Please be kind to each other. Take care of yourselves because you matter. Love, light, and blessings. See you soon.